In this video, I want to talk about 5 lessons on how to handle failure and succeed in spite of it. A lot of people come up to me and they're scared of failure, or maybe they dealt with some sort of failure, some sort of setback, or they're in the midst of some sort of trials and tribulations. You know, it's waning on their self-esteem and their motivation. And I want to tell you how to get past that so you can go on and beat the motherfucking shit out of your goals. How you can get past that fear and still accomplish your goals and actually use that failure to propel you to higher heights. Because the truth is, you actually need failure in order to succeed. So first thing you need to realize is failure is the precursor to success. One of my favorite books is Principles by Ray Dalio. All right, he's one of the richest men in the world. He's the founder of the largest hedge fund of all time, the world, Bridgewater Capital. And in his book, he talks about the process of accomplishing goals, right? Because Ray, he learned this because he went through some big failures. I think it was in the 80s or the 90s or some shit. He was predicting that there was going to be a recession. He was going on all the shows, all the stock shows, CNBC, if that was out then, just everywhere. He was saying we're going in a recession. And he bet all his money and all his investors' money that there was going to be a recession. Little did he know it was quite the contrary. In fact, the market went to all-time highs and started skyrocketing for the next 10 years. Ray, not only did he lose all his money, he had to lay off all his employees. He went broke. He was so broke that he had to borrow money to survive from his wife's daddy. Think about that. That's white privilege right there, man. Because I know if I went broke and I asked my girlfriend's dad for money, should it be different? my dad couldn't ask my mom's dad for money because that nigga wasn't around. Anyway, and not only did he have to ask his wife's daddy for money to live and support his wife, he was also embarrassed on the national stage. Think about the shit you fail with. You probably weren't on TV failing in front of everybody. You didn't probably lose your money and all your investors' money, but he failed. And what he realized was that failure was actually an important part of success, right? It was actually mandatory because he went on to build the largest hedge fund of all time after that failure, but he said it was because of that failure. So his process looked like this. First, he draws this fucking loop and he says the first step of the loop is you set audacious goals. And then he said the next step is actually failure. Like you should expect failure. You should expect to run into trials, tribulations. You should expect to be met with opposition. You should not expect it to be easy. But from that failure, you are going to gather learning principles, especially if it's something you never did before, right? Of course you're going to fail. You ain't never did that shit before, right? You'll learn some shit, right? Then you start improving. And then that's when you start succeed. And then after that, then you can set more audacious goals just so you can start the whole process again. And he says, this is what it looks like when you're going up. If you keep repeating this process over and over and over again. And the only time you stop repeating that process is when you stop setting goals and you stop going after stuff. You stop trying to accomplish new things. So it's a part of it. You need to fail in order to learn. For example, the big homie, Thomas Edison, he failed thousands of times when he was trying to make the light bulb. According to my research, he failed over 2,000 times trying to make this light bulb, right? But he finally got it. He figured it out. And he said, listen, man, I didn't fail thousands of times. I figured out thousands of ways that it didn't work. Think about that. He failed 2,000 times and he kept going until he figured it out. And as a result, this whole studio is not lit by candlelight because of that, right? But think how many times you motherfuckers give up because you failed once. Some of y'all clicked on this video because you were, yeah, man, I'm out here. I failed once. I'm sad. I'm about to cry, right? But this motherfucker failed fucking 1,000 times trying to accomplish this shit. People thought he was crazy. They was making fun of him. He was like, nah, man, we gonna have these lamps forever. Every once in a while, a house gonna burn down, a village gonna burn down, man. But it's just what we do, right? That he figured his shit out. But he said he learned thousands of ways it didn't work. That's the same process the homie Ray Dalio figured out, right? What the failure is a prerequisite for success. And that brings us to the second topic. Failure can be a good thing if you learn from it. For example, my favorite basketball player is Michael Jordan. I'm biased. I grew up in Chicago in the 90s. Before he won any championships, They lost twice in the playoffs. Eastern Conference Finals, they lost twice to the Detroit Pistons. Now, they were called the Bad Boy Pistons because, they played like a rough style of basketball, like hard fouls, and the NBA was a little tougher back then. People were saying, man, Jordan, he ain't that good. He's not a team player. That style of basketball will never work. That was the narrative around Michael Jordan. They said, oh, he's a great individual player, but he can't win a championship, and they kept saying that about him. And so what did he do? He learned that, okay, I'm not strong enough to compete at this level with this kind of play. So he went and got the homie Tim Grover to train him. And he needed to become stronger. He needed to be able to take those hard fouls and dish out, more aggression as well. And then he went on, the story, went on to win 6 championships. It was because of that failure. Like, who knows if he would have really won 6 championships had he not got beaten by the Detroit Pistons both those times, right? Because they forced him to what? They forced him to become stronger. He learned how to play in that environment, but he didn't know before. So that failure was a prerequisite for his success, and it became a good thing. If you watch The Last Dance, there were people who were saying that had it not been for those Detroit Pistons, the Chicago Bulls would not have been that good. It was almost like training, like they needed that. So whatever failure you're going through, I need you to reframe that as this is an opportunity for you to learn and become better. You found out some ways that the things didn't work. I'm sure you learned something. Dalai Lama said, when you lose, don't lose the lesson, right? Because if you don't lose the lesson, then you can come back, you can come strong, you can learn from that and make some shit happen as a result. The next tip for dealing with failure is, stop feeling sorry for yourself like a fucking punk. Let me tell you a story. At the end of 2007, my dad blew his brains out and committed suicide. It wasn't necessarily my failure, right? But it impacted me, right? There was a part of me that wanted to just fucking crumble and feel sorry for myself, At some point, I realized, listen, I'm the man of the family now. I got to take care of my mom, my sister, her kids, help support my grandma. This weight is on me. And I was only 24 years old at the time, right? And make matters worse, right after that, the recession of '08 started when Lehman Brothers crashed and the record unemployment and the world financial economy collapsed. So it was a lot going on in my life. It was a difficult time. I really felt like feeling sorry for myself. And I don't think anybody would have blamed me if I just curled up and cried like a bitch or just stayed a bitch, right? Hey man, I really do think I had a good excuse to be a bitch, but I didn't. There was some inside of me that said, I got to pick myself up and keep going. Those of y'all know the story. I said it before, but I started waking up at 4:30 every day, training people in the morning, and then I'll shower at the gym, go work security at the Prada store in Soho for like 8 hours. And then after that, I worked for a moving company 5 days a week. And on the weekends, I woke up early, trained people in the morning. And then I worked at a barbecue restaurant in Queens, Steinway Street, right? And these are 12, 14-hour days, man. 7 days a week for like 2 years. It looked really bad. But you know what, man? I was able to take care of the family. I was able to figure shit out. And even though it was difficult, that whole shit made me stronger. Like, it made me more resilient. It made me tougher. I don't want to say a good thing, but there was a silver lining in that, like I really became a G, and I used it to my benefit. Like, I used it to make myself stronger because I was working on those jobs during the recession. After my dad killed himself, I made over $100,000 a year, both those years. I just outworked it. And then I was able to stop doing that when I started my online fitness business, and I didn't know how to do that. I failed at that a bunch of times. Nobody teaching it. There was no books on it. Training someone online was a novel idea in 2009, 2010. And we had to figure it out. But I failed a bunch of times on my way to doing that. But because of what I had dealt with, those failures didn't seem as tough. And I didn't let those failures stop me because of that. And I was able to build a successful online fitness business where I started making over, $100,000 a year off my business, and I was able to quit those jobs. Now I teach other people how to start their online business businesses. In fact, I got a free ebook that'll show you how to do it. The link is in the description if you want to download it, because I didn't have those kind of resources when we had to figure it out on our own. We were the pioneers, the people who were doing it back then. But I say all that to say, once I stopped feeling sorry for myself, I was able to start attacking the goal. I'm gonna be honest with you, during that 2-year stint, there were times that I was probably suicidal on some real shit, but there's no way I would have did it because I saw how that affected the family. But, I just couldn't feel sorry for myself. So I just got up and kept going. That leads me to the next tip on how to deal with failure. The failure you're going through now, they're gonna make your story better, right? If you don't give up and you keep going, these failures are going to make your story better when you tell it. One of my favorite movies, Avengers: Infinity War. It was a great movie, but they lost. Right? They lost. And that set up the next movie, Avengers Endgame. Imagine how bad that movie would have been if they was like, yo, Thanos was coming to get his souls and they just beat them all easily. Right? That wouldn't be no movie that you want to watch. That wouldn't be excited. That movie would be whack. You got to think about your life like it's a movie and you're the main character. This is the part where Thanos won, or you get defeated, or you got your ass kicked. How's this movie going to end? Right? You get to write that script. If you keep getting up, I promise you will succeed eventually. Right? You just got to keep getting up, because persistence is undefeated. Right? The world is not tougher than a person who's not willing to never give up. I'm telling you. Now, think how fucking whack that movie would have been if they just got beat by Thanos and they was like, man, fuck it. I ain't like half these motherfuckers anyway. You know what I'm saying? Man, it's less people now, man. Maybe Thanos was right. You know what I'm saying? Right? But the failure is going to make your story better. The fact that you're dealing with these difficulties is going to make the story better. You just can't give up. It's okay to switch plan, but never switch goals. If you try something and it doesn't work, cool. You find out a way it doesn't work, but you still attack the goal. Like when people say plan B, a lot of times they mean they're going to do something totally different. That's not how you should look at a plan B. Plan B should be another plan, another route to the same goal. And then you have plan C, plan D, all the way to plan Z. Then you start over. Plan A1, plan A, plan B1, plan, you know what I'm saying? You keep going until you get there. I'm sure that during World War II, there was another plan. The D-Day invasion didn't work. If that was unsuccessful, I'm sure there was another plan, but I'm confident that that plan was not, hey, maybe we just learn to kick you with the Nazis, man. That was France's plan. They just gave up, but that wasn't America's plan. That wasn't England's plan. London was getting bombed. They let Hitler bomb London, but they still ain't give up. They was going to go down fighting, and that's what you got to do, man. Right? But it makes your story better. And here's the beautiful thing. Everybody loves a comeback story. So think about the story I just told you about my dead daddy during the recession. Imagine if I didn't have that story and I just said, yeah, I was born rich. I was always rich. And then I found a way to get some more money, right? That's not a very compelling story, right? It's the failure makes your story better, man. The next tip on how to deal with failure. You got to use failure as fuel. So F. Scott Fitzgerald once said, never confuse a single defeat with a final defeat. Here's what I say, use it as fuel. So you got your ass beat, you got kicked down, everything looks bad, right? I want you to think about this. So the reason anyone does anything, right? If you need motivation, right? The reason anyone is motivated to do anything, they're either moving towards pleasure or away from pain. Right? That failure, you got that pain now. You know what it's like to fail. So next time you're going to go harder. But the beauty is if you got actually experience now, right? Experience is the best teacher. Now you got yourself some experience. So now you're better equipped to get up and attack this again. And it makes you stronger. Think about it. You need to reframe your brain and say, yo, this failure, it's made me stronger. It's made me more resilient. And it did. Think about the gym. When you're lifting weights, if you want to grow muscle, you got to go to what? Failure, right? You go to failure, what happens? Your muscle fibers get break down, they tear, but then guess what? They grow back stronger. That's you, motherfucker. If you do what you're supposed to do, right? Get back up. You want to use that as fuel and know that that failure it has made you stronger. It's made you more resilient. When my father killed himself, it's like, fuck. Like now, like what can be worse than that, right? So now I'm stronger. I'm more resilient. You build like a mental callus. Just like that muscle fiber grows back stronger, you grow back stronger. Unless you stay down there like a punk and feeling sorry for yourself and you start crying like a hoe. You got to get the fuck back up. You're supposed to go to failure so you can be stronger. Just like Ray Dalio said, what he said, you're supposed to fail, learn, and then come back stronger and set what? More audacious goals. Right? Just like you lift weights, you do bicep curls, you go to failure, then guess what? You come back stronger and you fucking progressive overload. You put on more weight and you go to failure again. It's the same shit Ray Dalio was saying with his fucking graph, right? But you're doing it in your life instead of the gym. It's a perfect metaphor, right? You need to reframe this failure and be like, okay, this failure has made me stronger. Not only am I more resilient, but now I have more experience and I've learned something from this. And now I'm better equipped to attack this same goal again. And here's the thing. If you keep adopting that and you don't lose that frame of mind, you're going to be invincible, right? Because every time you get knocked down, you're just going to come back stronger, like the Hulk or some shit. You know what I'm saying? But it's only if you come at it with that attitude, almost like you have to be happy that you failed, because now you learn something and you gain some strength. Maya Angelou said once, you may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary to encounter the defeats so you can know who you are, what you can rise from, and you can still come out of it, right? How do you know what you're made of unless you push it to the limit, right? It's just like in the gym. How do you know how strong you are unless you max out? Max it out, you're going to failure. You got to max out in life. Go to failure. Take the hits. Get back up. Become resilient. Life's not about going through it unscathed. Nah, man, that makes you weak. That makes you what? Fragile, right? What happens when you lift weights? If you're not using gloves like a girl, right? You're going to develop these calluses on your hands, right? Now you can lift weights stronger. The first time it hurts, it's painful, right? Then you develop these calluses. Now you what? You tougher, you more resilient. It's the same thing in life. But if you're afraid of the calluses, right, you're never going to get strong. It's the same way in life. If you want some more tips on how to accomplish your goals, I got another video that you watch right now to help you accomplish your goals in record time. So go check out that video right now.